down to rock and rollers, future rock and roll bands, and just rock and roll fans in general. Guys, welcome to another episode of the Tenacity podcast, where we talk about all things rock. I'm your host, Gavin, along with my partner in crime, Josh Jumper. Josh, how are you, sir?
I'm doing fantastic, Gavin. And as always, I haven't even been outside yet today. But if I were outside today, I bet it would feel like a nice day to talk about all things rock.
And what a subject we've got about for all things rock. Guys, when we talk about all things rock a lot on this episode, well, obviously, because it's about all things rock when we're on this podcast. But what we want to do today is we want to do something special for the episode, is we want to talk about why do we listen to rock. Now, everybody's got a reason for their favorite genre. Everybody's got a reason for like their favorite artist. But there's always going to be a reason for everything. And so what we want to do is, what is it about rock and roll that is so unique? And we want to give a few pointers on why it's our favorite. And so we want to go, and guys, we want to hear from you guys. What is it about rock and roll that makes it unique to you? And why is it so special to you? So Josh, kind of give us one of your points on why rock and roll is unique to you. And then I'll pick up from there.
Yeah. So, so music has always early on been, obviously me and Gavin, both me and you both, music has been just a love and a passion. But rock music always stands out. And for me, there's so many things about rock and why I believe it's the greatest genre in the world. For me, one of the many things I think of is the energy it brings. Energy. I feel like, and that's not to say that any other genre doesn't have energy, but none of those other genres can compare to the energy that rock brings. And I'm talking about all genres of rock. I'm talking about rock and roll. I'm talking about classic rock. I'm talking about soft rock, hard rock, metal. It all brings energy, and especially when they perform live. But and the vocals, the energy that the vocalist brings, the energy that the guitars bring, that the drums bring, breakdowns, whatever, lyrics. I would also say the energy in the lyrics too. Rock music has just it's one of those. There's a reason why, like when I say energy, there's a reason why when people work out, there's a reason why rock in general is the most popular music to work out to, especially the hard rock and stuff, because of the energy it brings. You can get and it doesn't matter what mood you're in. I feel like rock brings all kinds of positive energy, and no matter what mood you're in, you could be upset, you could be happy, you could be in between, somewhere in between. Rock music just has something you can't help but to feel something. So energy to me is one of the many things about it that I love, and it just gets me going in a positive way. It gets me going. I can't help but put on a song like "Welcome to the Jungle" or put on a song like "Back in Black," or "Detroit Rock City." Put on just to name one of many. How could you put those songs on and not feel like going or get you going, or just like, oh yeah, this is awesome? It's just that energy to me. And so that's the first thing I thought of. One of the many things about it, obviously, I love, but definitely I had to bring that first. I mean, when I think of rock music in general, I think energy, and boy, does it have energy.
Absolutely, it does. Another thing I would like to, and going into why rock is so unique, I would have to say it has a lot to do with the lyrical creativity that is behind rock and roll. And guys, like probably both me and Josh, it's not that like rock and roll is our number one favorite. We listen to other genres every once in a while, but I would have to say that probably with the two of us, we listen to rock and roll more. And here's the thing: I've got the coolest diversity in family. My mother is a hip hop and country artist. She loves all things hip hop, country. My sister loves country music. My father, he loves all things like classical rock. He's not as big on the newer metal genres. I probably listen more to the newer stuff. and my brother's kind of like more on the uh just lower country rockish style that he enjoys to listen to. And then I've got my other brother who just loves the thrash and just the heaviest metal you can find. And but the point I'm getting at is that the one thing that reason why rock and roll to me is unique is it has a lot to do with the message behind it. It really goes back to my favorite band, which is Bon Jovi, and I've always found that the messaging behind them has never been you get to certain genres and certain genre music, there's going to be a very like there's going to be a message that's going to be prevalent and dominant in that genre. If you think about country music's a lot about to the name, you're singing about the countryside, you're singing about some girl you like, you're describing her, and I'm not trying to be stereotypical at all. That's just my experience with the music. Singing about your pickup truck, there's only so many songs I can hear about a pickup truck and your heartbreak from a girl, which there's some great songs like that, but there's only so many that I can probably listen to. And then if you go back to hip hop, probably one of the most dominant things about hip hop is, I guess the word would be diss, but I think it's short for disrespecting another artist in your music.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much of that happens in that, and where some of it's creative. I just don't care for a steady flow of that. Even Eminem, who is like the king of you cannot diss him. He's got some amazing songs. There's only so much that I can take where you're bad mouthing another artist. Well, some of it is deserved. There's only so much of that I can take. Even classical music that doesn't really have any there's no lyrical story to it. It's really just a lot of instruments and stuff. There's only so much. And when I listen to rock and roll can be all of those things combined. And when I think about their messaging, it's always been open to whatever the artist is feeling. I think the most expressive, I feel like when it listened to rock and roll, think about the lyrics that happen. Bon Jovi wrote a love song. He wrote about a heartbreak song. You give love a bad name. Then he also wrote a song on hope. Like, yes, we're struggling, but we're living on a prayer. He did one that was this song during their, if you guys have been following with the media, where Russia invaded Ukraine. Ukraine was playing the song "It's My Life" as a call to action, and it's a Bon Jovi song. Bon Jovi's also written the song called "Undivided," and it's very much a call to united. Like, we've been at odds, but now we stand united, undivided. And so those are like some of the things, like the messaging. And that's not the only band that has written stuff like that. Foo Fighters, Dave Grohl, "Best of You." Who is it that you're giving the best of your life to? And those are just a few examples of bands that have that's what rock and roll has been. It's an emotion that you have, and you're able to put it into a song lyrically. And rock and roll, you can do whatever messaging you want. It's never going to feel like it doesn't belong there, because rock is so universally message wise. You can put almost anything into it, and you're going to be able to get the same results and the same kind of feedback from the song, because it's not tied to just like 3 or 4 different topics of message you can put in that type of music.
Right. And you're never wrong. Rock and roll's about standing for whatever you believe in. And so you whatever you believe in, you're never wrong as far as like it's standing up, they say rebelling against people telling you can't do something. And so you can stand up and fight for what you believe in rock and roll. And especially if you're writing music, you can write about whatever you want. You stand firm on it, and there's no right or wrong answer. If you truly believe in something, it's about rock and roll, and nothing is more rock and roll than fighting for what you believe in. And that's what any of these bands are about. They fight for what they believe in, and they stand up. It's about not letting people telling you or dictate what you can and can't accomplish in life.
Yeah. I always find it interesting too how rock and roll, a lot of times, that's a lot of the ground, like the foundation for where a lot of the newer genres of music, where they're coming from. You think about it, like there's there's country rock that's out too.
Mm,
I
yeah,
believe it's Florida Georgia Line's got a really cool style of that he does, which he's might be more pop rock country, I believe. But and then even Eminem, some of his music is centered around, has a lot of rock to it. Like he's got probably the most instrument specific like he uses in his
yeah. There's
uh
a song. There's a song he has came out in 2002, I believe it was, called "Sing for the Moment," and it samples "Dream On" by Aerosmith. The song does, and the song has uh, Eminem's version included has a great guitar solo in it. And I was reading more about that and everything. And even though Eminem's favorite genre is rap, obviously, and he's passionate about rap, obviously, his second favorite genre is rock because he was raised around Aerosmith and that type
and you
of stuff.
said
So
that's
he,
so interesting, Josh. Like DMC also does a a partnership with Aerosmith on Walk This Way. They have their own rap version that Steve is on.
yeah, absolutely, and it's all it is so cool too. And I think diversity, like we're talking about diversity, that really because like for example, the genre a genre that I've always liked in the rock form, new metal, that always forms of a lot of those new metal bands were inspired by rock and hip hop. And they like bands like Limp Bizkit, Korn, Kid Rock, all of them. They had a big passion for hip hop and rock, and so they combined it together. And I think I think that's really cool. Actually, I've always found that very fascinating. Like oh, I don't want to do just rap. I don't want to do just rock. I want to blend it together, and it worked. I think it worked, and it was and but diversity. I want to diversity is like what we're talking about. That says it all about rock music because think of all the genres of rock music alone, and uh I think of I always bring them up, but it's worth mentioning a band like the Beatles, who were now you can get the Beatles were so diverse in their music that they have you could I can name two way more than two, but just I could name two songs by the Beatles that sound like completely different bands, but they're both Beatles songs. They evolved so much in their sound. If you listen to the Beatles' first album and you listen to their very last album, sounds like two completely different bands. But that is a good thing that's evolving, and that's another thing about rock is evolving. I think all bands evolve. Rock will always evolve, but nothing I don't think evolves more than the genre of rock. Rock and roll, any subgenre you want to attach to rock. But like the Beatles, they had they were just a rock and roll band. They were a rock and roll band, and then they had a few slower songs, and then they had faster songs. But then as they got older and as they started progressing more, they got more into the psychedelic stuff, and they got more little heavier stuff. And so I always admire that bands are able to do that. But then that started a whole thing. If you go Kiss has some look at a band like Kiss. Now Kiss has some if you listen to a bunch of Kiss albums, um some of it sounds like your traditional Kiss albums, but they have stuff that sounds a little different than normal. And Metallica, look at Metallica. Metallica, if you listen to Kill 'Em All, their very first album, and you listen to you go and listen to all different albums, you can tell it's Metallica, but they're still different. Like for example, Ride the Lightning and Load, two completely different albums. One's more thrash metal and the other one's more hard rock. They're both Metallica. Both are Metallica albums, and both you can tell obviously it's Metallica, but completely different sound. But it works, and that's the diversity of rock. And
Yeah.
I know that was a lot to unfold, but man, there's just so much about it that I love, that diversity of rock music. And you could talk about, and if so, me, Gavin, Levi, and Braden, we have on our Spotify just to briefly touch on, we have a Tenacity playlist.
Mhm.
And if any of you were to listen to our Tenacity playlist, it's all rock based music. But I mean, we have everything on there from the Beatles to Bon Jovi, um, and to Korn to
Slipknot is on
Slipknot to I mean all kinds of stuff. Foo Fighters,
Ozzy, Black Veil Brides,
yeah,
Nickelback is on there.
yeah.
You would see, like, if you got into our playlist, guys. In fact, maybe Josh, maybe that's something that we need to start sharing with everybody. Let us know in the comments if you want to see that playlist. I think it's about, was it 300 songs now on that
Oh,
playlist. You would probably be like, you'll be jamming out to something super heavy, and then you'll get I think the Rolling Stones is on there at some point too. And you get to see the evolution of these. Jimmy, was it Jimi Hendrix is on there as well.
yeah. Hmm.
There's just so
Jimi
many.
Hendrix, and then there's some bands. There's a few bands, that like I might know one or two songs from that I've added on there, and it really uh just any song that we like, we add to the playlist, and it's really I think that's good for bands to do. It gives everybody, and there's stuff on the playlist that might be my cup of tea, but might not be Gavin's cup of tea, or might be Gavin's cup of tea, might not be Levi's cup of tea. But we all put what we like personally on there, and there's times where I'll just be driving, or I'll just be working out or exercising, and I don't even get picky. I'll go on the playlist and I'll just put it on shuffle.
Mhm. There, Josh, we're talking about these. Like, what's another thing that's unique about rock and roll? Um,
Mm,
and this one will be two part, because this is actually, if you've ever heard me talk about this, it's a pet peeve of mine, I guess. And one of the main reasons why I love rock and roll, I would prefer it above other genres. Um,
mm,
in two part. The first part of it is there are more known instrument, not just vocalists, but more names of guitarists and drummers and bassists who are part of rock and roll bands. Think about it.
mm-hmm.
Everybody knows Metallica's band list. James Hetfield, Robert Trujillo, Kirk Hammett, Lars Ulrich. Everybody knows who all those guys are.
Right.
Kiss, Paul Stanley, Gene Simmons, Peter Criss, Ace Frehley. You already
Mm-hmm.
know who all those guys are.
Mm-hmm.
How many other genres can say, "Oh, I know everybody. I don't know everybody besides the lead singer."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's not.
Yeah.
It's not very
That
many.
is that.
But in think about this too. All the greatest all the greatest guitarists that are out there, the Eric Claptons, the Jimmy Pages, the
Mm,
Jimi Hendrix. I'm
mm-hmm.
trying to think of any other guitarists. Dave Mustaine,
Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Stevie Ray Vaughan, and there is a I believe he is a Switzerland guitarist. He's got the craziest name ever, but he invented something called like the hell spawn of guitar playing,
Mm,
style of guitar playing. But all these guys, all these big name people that like these were amazing guitar players. Yeah, Steve Ray Vaughan, another one. These guys are all based around rock and roll.
mm.
All of them.
Yeah.
They're all
Yeah.
now. Some of them are more bluesy, but that's where rock and roll got its start, is from the blues.
Mm,
But
yep.
they're all centered around all these amazing guitarists that by name. We're all rock and roll players. You
Oh
don't
yeah.
get good at, like, most of these guys, and these guys are great. They're not just like good; they're amazing. Oh, you know who I forgot? Eddie Van Halen.
Oh, absolutely. Eddie Van
These are
Halen.
some of the most creative ways to play guitar, some of the most inventive sounds that have ever been created, music wise, came from guitarists who were part of rock and roll bands.
Also, of course, Eric Clapton is a great guitar player, and somebody, honestly, and Gavin, me and you talked about it before. Someone who was an amazing guitar player, that sometimes he gets overlooked. Now his music doesn't get overlooked, but him as a guitar player, and that would be Prince. Was an amazing guitar player.
Yes. Oh, now that is an interesting one, because Prince was closer to pop, I believe.
Yeah, but he could do like he I did not realize, so about Prince, I did not realize. I knew he was a big star in music. I knew he like Purple Rain, obviously great album, great just but I knew he had hits and I knew he was popular. However, I didn't know till later on that he was a great guitar player, very musically. I thought he was just a singer. I didn't know he did anything other than singing. Uh, Man, I've seen some videos where he can rock. He rocked out on the guitar. He could do it. There's an old '70s song called "Play That Funky Music," and he did a cover of that. And oh man, he did it better than the original. And I love the original, but he did it. That's just one of the many examples. But Prince, and they asked Eric Clapton. This is what's interesting because I brought up Eric Clapton. By the way, Eric Clapton, he was in a band called Cream and just a great guitar player. They asked Eric Clapton in an interview years ago. So, Eric Clapton, how does it feel like to be the best guitar player alive or the best guitar player out there or whatever they asked him? And Eric Clapton said, and these were his words, he said, I don't know. You'll have to go ask Prince. Now, that is something coming from Eric Clapton because Eric Clapton is phenomenal on the guitar. But that just shows you. And I did. So I started doing my, uh, I had a new respect for Prince. I mean, I already respected him as, he was an awesome singer and had good songs, good music. But man, I did not know he was the great musician he was outside of singing. It just blew my mind. But I just wanted to add him to the list because man, it's worth mentioning.
Absolutely. Yeah,
And
and
if
it's
you
just like
I urge anybody listening, if you have go look up Prince playing guitar and rocking out on stage. It's phenomenal.
yeah, you'll always find him on any of the top guitar, like top 10, top 20 guitar player list. But notice that like predominantly they're all rock and roll players. They're part of rock and roll bands is where these lead guitarists, these amazing guitar players are from. And that leads me into my second part of the of one of my pet peeves about why rock and roll is to me unique and why it's my favorite. I had a interesting I watch a lot of like different artists, like how they create their music, and it always
Mm,
intrigues me. But one thing that was almost like, and guys, you can have your own opinion on this. Absolutely. It's not saying like this is the opinion you have to have, but it became my opinion when I watched a popular pop singer show how he makes his music. I was like, oh, cool. We'll get to see like what all, because I'm sure he plays all these instruments. No, he took a coffee mug and a spoon and tapped the spoon against the mug, recorded it, and then did a mix where he just raised it and just made it repeat and did like I guess he sped it up as a track, and that was the track for his new song.
mm.
And so there was no real talent involved, just knowing how to work it. Really, it was if you know how to make it work a computer, you've got yourself a song. And something
Right.
about that I've never been able to agree with. And
Yeah.
I believe someone said that was like a purist mindset. I'm not sure. I know there's some part of me that's like, hey, a perfectionist or whatever, but rock and roll has always been based on a thing called talent.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. And this is probably going to be the most most maybe unfriendly towards other genres that you'll probably see me get. And it's because there is a talent to what they do. And
Well,
it doesn't
in
involve a backing track. It doesn't involve a trying to just use a copy of something and then overlay it,
yeah.
distort it to make your own sound. That way, all the only thing you got to do is focus on your voice. That's auto tuned a little bit. Uh,
Right. I mean, Gavin, we both shared on our Facebook pages not too long ago, just a few days ago. It said before AI and auto tune, there was a thing called talent, and that really is true. And it had the picture of the lead singer Journey on it. It was a meme, but that is a fact. And I mean, people, and it's like Gavin said, people they can like whatever music they want to like. They can make it however they want to make it. But I agree, Gavin. I think it's that's another like people. It takes so much more to you know uh do your natural voice, play your own instruments, challenging. Like for me as a drummer, learn like what really gets me is I've heard there's been bands in the past, and I don't think any notable bands worth mentioning, but I've heard that there's been bands in the past trying to get started, and they used like I heard of about one band a long time ago, and there's probably been several, but not any notable, but one band using pre-recorded drums, and that really irked me because I don't care how challenging the drum beat was. I'm gonna sit there and I'm gonna play it until my hands fall off, and
There's
then I'll
only
glue them
one
back
time,
on and still.
and this is probably a lot of where our rehearsal. And here's the thing: I'm a firm believer that anyone in the rock and roll world will agree with this. There is only one time that you use a pre-recorded little drum set thing for anything, and it's during your practice time, just to get in time, learn the timing of the song.
Oh yeah, yeah,
That's it.
absolutely.
And
Like
there's
I
a thing for
and I
that.
know,
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, I know y'all would never see. It's like I don't work like, but like I know y'all would never ever do it. But if I was ever in a band and they wanted to use pre-recorded drums just because it was the easier way to do it, I would be absolutely upset. And vice versa. I know there's a lot of bands too. If I was the guitarist or if I was the lead singer or whatever, and there was a drummer in the band that wanted to do pre-recorded drums or vice versa, pre-recorded guitar or pre-recorded whatever, uh, that would be a problem for me because it's like, no, we're gonna sit and we're gonna learn it until we get it right, and that's what I mean. Because I just that stuff like that irks me, and it's like some of the songs that have went viral, and again, I'm not here trying to bash anything or anybody. You're entitled to like whatever you want, but I'm just saying, like I've seen to where people literally have gone viral or gotten musical contracts
Mhm.
having zero talent, but it was based on it still sold just based on the reaction it got or the reaction, and like not even having to like people having no and I'm not gonna, for the sake of it, I'm not gonna name any names or nothing, but I've seen where there's people that have had no musical experience, they go viral for something, and then they make music, and basically they auto tune their voice, they put stuff on their voice to make them sound a little bit better. Still sounds horrible in a lot of regard, but I mean that's my opinion. Disclaimer, it's just my opinion, but anyway, it's like what Gavin said. It's like with the mug and everything what he
Yeah.
was talking about. It's just that is another thing I've always thought so strongly about rock and roll and it, rock in general is it's all coming from the heart and soul, and everybody from the bass player, the guitarist, the vocalist, the drummer, everybody is putting in 1,000% and making the music themselves, and
Guys,
that's what I love about it.
yeah, guys, like I know it seems like we're going a little hard. We're going hard on other genres, because there have been other rock and roll, like Josh has kind of alluded to. There's been bands that have tried to do that to go the easy way. But let me tell you something. This is why I am a firm believer that I don't like trying to go a shortcut into making it in the music industry, is because no one that is as popular as a band like Metallica, Van Halen, Led Zeppelin, Cream, or even Black Veil Brides, or even the new one, Avenged Sevenfold, none of
Yeah,
them, I guarantee you, none of them got famous. They're amazing riffs, they're iconic songs that have put them where they at, or even inventing a style of playing with Eddie Van Halen. None of them got where they were by recording something that wasn't their own.
right,
No one got where they are. All these additional, like where you get players who are releasing songs with pre-recorded drums that are not theirs. There's something they bought from somebody else. You don't remember those people.
right,
There was no real. It's not even that there wasn't any real. You can tell right away when you get to somebody live and you find out where the real talent was. Is it from the
right.
person's creativity, or is it from their computer? I'll give you one example I actually saw last night, and in fact, because I'm not afraid to throw names out there, because I'm interested to see if they'll come back and get me. Kanye West. I'll
Ooh.
give you that. Kanye West wrote a song. I cannot tell you what the song was. I personally don't care. So, but he did a song and he put auto tune on it because there were higher notes that he actually can't reach, or lower parts that would sound better if they were auto tuned. So he did that for the recording, and then he was asked to play it live. See where I'm getting with this?
Mm.
It sounded awful. And then even to add salt to injury, when he did the high notes, you could hear the pre-recorded auto tune of a female's voice in the background.
Mm.
And when he got low, the auto tune device he was using that would help, kind of like regulate, like make his voice sound lower or sound like different to where it would match the tune of the song, wouldn't work. So when all the technology is gone, when everything is gone, and all you're left with is the instruments, which he didn't have any instruments on stage, it was all just on a soundtrack.
Mm.
You're left with just a guy who doesn't have his tools to
Right.
music. And that's not to say that he doesn't have some really good releases. There's people that love his music. Great.
Mm.
But when it comes to the live stuff, who has more shows, Josh? Rappers or rockers?
Oh, definitely rockers. Uh, rockers
Only
can't. Rockers, like you look at Kiss and all them. How many farewell tours has Kiss had? It's hard to stay away because the energy just comes with it.
and that's one of the things I get with, like, these are, and that goes back to, guys, you can have your own opinions on these. My opinion, I won't fight that it is the right opinion. It is my opinion.
Well, okay, compare. I mean, I agree. Like, okay,
But I have my own reasons and my own research on why it is my opinion.
I'll put anything. Compare a pop star or a rapper, and I'm not trying to disrespect, especially rap. I'm not disrespecting anything. I'm not disrespecting rap, but I'm just saying, put a rapper in front of a crowd, and they'll get the crowd hype, no doubt. But compare it to Iron Maiden live or Metallica live. What would have more energy? Megadeth live. I mean, there's no comparison. I mean, if you're comparing the energy, not saying there wouldn't be any energy from the other, but if you compare it, it's not even comparison, it's contrast. You can't compare because and another thing, I'll throw a name that some of you probably might have never heard of. Back in the 80s, there was a very popular pop group. They were two guys, and I think they were pop. I never listened to their music.
Millie Vanilli?
Millie Vanilli, you knew where I was going. And
Yeah.
and man, they were very popular. They'd sell out all over the place. Their albums sold really good. And then one time they're performing live, and uh all of a sudden the song skips. And so the crowd found out, wait, that's not really them singing, they're lip syncing. And so then after that, they said, well, maybe they just lip sync live. But then it turned out, no, the whole time it wasn't even their voice you heard on the album, it was somebody else singing for them. And in reality, I heard they tried singing. I heard like a year or however long later it was after that incident happened, they tried singing themselves and they weren't any good. That's why they lip sync, because they couldn't really carry a good tune. And that stuff though, like about the whole lip syncing thing, they probably would have, I think they probably would have carried that to their grave. They would have just continued if they would have never got exposed. And that stuff, that really irks me. That's just shortcut. That's not, I mean, I would not feel good if I, like, for example, we put out a Tenacity album, and we would never, none of us would ever before even think about putting pre-recorded anything on our albums. But if I was listening to a Tenacity album and it was pre-recorded drums, I could not for 1 minute listen to that and be like, "Oh man, we did it, we did good," because I wouldn't feel accomplished. Because it wouldn't, because if it wasn't really me playing it, I wouldn't feel accomplished. Same with Millie Vanilli or whoever. Like they were just content with going through the motions, going through the shortcut. Stuff like that really irks me. And of course, I don't even, and this is just me. I've heard a few Milli Vanilli songs that wasn't even really them, their hits. Not really, that's not my cup of tea anyway. But I will say that it really was. And if I was the guys that was really singing their music, I would feel cheated big time. But uh, I'm not trying to go off on Milli Vanilli. That's one of the most classic examples I could think of, and it's just stuff like that really really grinds my gears. It really gets me.
Right.
But uh, but like you say, it's like you say, like the whole Kanye West thing, and I agree. Yeah, Kanye West has some creative and good stuff, but it's like you said, if he's gonna do something live, you're gonna do something live. Who's gonna have the most energy? To me, I would put any pop singer, any of them against uh one of our guys any day, and we're gonna bring the most energy. We're gonna bring the most hype. And that's not me trying to start a battle, trying to start a war. I'm just saying this is all our opinion, by the way.
Mhm.
But yeah, that's really all I just we have an energy that can't be matched.
Mhm. And that's one of the main reasons I love rock. And rock, why it is so unique is the energy it brings, the relationships it creates, and the message that it builds, the uniqueness, the diversity that is all things that are attached to rock. Guys, that is, I know we went a little bit longer on today's episode, but we what you guys got to see there is our hearts on why we're doing this podcast and why we believe in all things rock, why we love the genre. We do like the other genres of music that are out there, but the choice is simple. If you had to put any genre for us to pick, we're always going to pick all things rock and roll, guys. So that is it for today's episode. We guys hope you guys have enjoyed. Let us know too. If you're not for all things rock, that does not mean that we can't hang out, we can't be friends or anything like that. We'd love to hear what it is that you enjoy and why you love your genre. And if you didn't agree with us, we'd love to hear your feedback. We'd love to hear your thoughts on today's episode. Love those guys. Love to be able to chat about those with you guys. But hope you guys enjoyed the episode. If you enjoyed the music in the background, you can find links to that on the description. And until next time, guys, keep on rocking in a free world, y'all. Take care.